Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm glad you could be with me. I didn't notice there were that many spots on my face actually. But yeah, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing good. I'm doing better. Obviously, as you can see, like physically, I'm not doing that great. I've had a lot of attacks on my head here electronically. I've had a lot of attacks on my head. It's mostly microwave weaponry on my head. Sometimes I do get directed energy weaponry. I get a slight pressure like at the center of my head here. I think it's pretty obvious why they're doing that, given where the CR1 part of the brain is. I think it's pretty obvious why they're doing that. So I have been getting attacks here and here and here. But crucially, I've also been attacked on my hip. I've been attacked on my hip and my lower back. There's something strange about that I wanted to tell you about actually. So basically, electrician came over, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened after that. But they came to fix my switch, and next thing I know, the phone rings. His phone rings. And suddenly there, without going into too much detail, there was this loud conversation about trapped nerves. Before that, whilst the switch was being fixed, there was the sound of aircraft. This same guy, the handyman here, said, oh, that's a bit low flying. So usually with TIs, if you hear low flying aircraft, it usually means that directed energy weapons are being fired or some shit like that. It literally could be anything, because there's, there are multiple reasons why aircraft could be flying overhead. But sometimes it can be electronic weaponry. So I don't know if that's a misdirection, or if that's, I don't know, if it's just something he just pointed out and thought was interesting. But in my experience, when there's low flying overhead aircraft, it's usually to do with electronic weapons. I've experienced that not only here in this flat, but I've also experienced it at my dad's as well. And shortly after I hear low flying aircraft, suddenly I feel electronic sensations on different parts of my body, right? So coming back to the handyman and what he said. So what I originally pointed out was that there was a loud phone conversations about trapped nerve in the back, about being unable to sleep. And I just found it funny, because it's usually late at night when I get like the more pronounced pinching of my nerve as I'm sleeping, which is not natural. It's not natural for my nerve to be hurting that much more when I'm sleeping. That's clearly electronic weaponry. And I'm also been getting twinges in my hip as well. So I have been electronically tortured in my back and hips. And what's happening is that there appears to be loaded conversation, which a lot of TIs call street theatre. There appears to be loaded conversation alluding to the torture that I've been subjected to recently. And it's because of the stress of my mother and, the stress of her dying or being murdered. Let's be real. It's the stress of her being killed that kind of made the electronic torturers think to themselves, okay, now's our opportunity to pounce. Now's our opportunity to cause her as much pain as possible while she's grieving. Because their hope is that if they can compound the stress on, pile it on, it means that my immune system will be affected. And the immune system being affected is probably why I'm getting all these burns everywhere, even though I've had no insect bites or anything like that. This is definitely not insect bites. This is definitely electronic weaponry that's causing all these, scars to pop up everywhere. So, they must have thought to themselves, while she's still grieving, let's just pile on as much pain as possible. And that's exactly what's been happening. Like I said before, they're very predictable. So coming back to this handyman making, doing potential street theatre. He might not be doing street theatre, but the fact that he started talking about trapped nerves, and after he's left, I get twinges in my hip and back, like that's not a coincidence. So there's street theatre going on, or there's torture being being coordinated in time with certain conversations taking place. So there's that. This sounds absolutely wild of me to say, but you know that I experience V2K along with everyone else. I just tend to ignore it. And what I think is that there might be some sort of subliminal hypnosis there, with regards to the V2K, because there are some cases where I'm a bit too obedient to what somebody else is saying. I'm not going to say who the person is, but there are times where I'm a bit too obedient to what the other person's saying, and I can't place where that comes from. And it's like I'm watching myself do it, and I don't realize I'm watching myself do it. That's hypnotic suggestion. So that might be occurring during the V2K, and especially during my sleep. So it's likely that's occurring too. So, you know, that's been going on for a few months now, but it's only now that I'm just like, no, I've had enough of this. I don't want to keep going through this. And you might be wondering why I'm waiting for months to actually bring up the fact that I have V2K and all this is happening to me. It's because, truth be told, emotionally, I can't handle talking about all my torture at once. I have to break it up into pieces. And, you know, that's another thing that I'm noticing as well. So I'm noticing that my back and hips are being tortured, and I'm also noticing hypnotic suggestion, possible hypnotic suggestion. The truth of the matter is, right, is that the torture is so low level that it could, it gives deniability. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because of how low level it is, it could be a normal pain. I know it's not a normal pain, but let's just say that I wasn't a TI and I was going through this, I would just think there was something wrong with my body. I wouldn't put together that I was being tortured. But because I'm too aware of the timing, and I'm too aware of the street theatre, and I'm too aware of everything that's going on, I know it's torture. So there was street theatre with the handyman that came over a couple of days ago, and now I'm struggling with my back and hips in a way that I wasn't struggling before. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing, and as always, they did it for attention. As always, the torture on my head, the torture on my back and hips, all of it for attention. But it doesn't matter what the reason is that they're actually doing it. They've killed people doing this before, so I'm quite prepared. After they murdered my mother, and after my grandmother died, I'm quite prepared for them to do this to me as well. I'm quite prepared for them to. I mean, truth be told, they've already murdered me anyway. It doesn't matter. Like, the second that they decided that I was on this program, they already set me up for pathological murder, so it doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, like, there's no way that their attention seeking is not going to lead to yet another person being killed. It's led to several other people being killed, so it's just going to happen the same with me. It's not going to be any different. So whilst I still have my mental capacity, whilst I still have enough mental capacity to be able to put forth a will or put forth some sort of legal documentation to make sure that if I lose my faculties, I might not. Just to make sure that if I should ever lose my faculties, again, it might not happen. In fact, it's likely not to. In case I lose my faculties, then nobody can say that I didn't put anything in place whilst I was saying. And in fact, the fact that I'm recording this is proof. And whilst we're on the subject, this is another reason why TIs are diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, because if you are seen as diminished in your mental capacity to be able to make a decision, which is what paranoid schizophrenia is supposed to do, it means that they will try to cast doubt on any wills that you leave behind and on any legal documentation that you put behind. I'm stating right here and now, I know exactly what day it is. Today, as I'm recording this, it is Thursday, the 15th of February, 2024. That's the date that I'm making this video on. The time that I'm making this video on is 11:45 at night. At the moment, I have a slight dull ache in my head. I have had electronic weapons fired on both sides of my brain. Electronic weapons like microwave weapons fired on both sides of this brain. Directed energy weapon here. I've also had directed energy weapons fired on my hip and my lower back. I am completely off sound mind. My name is Fabienne Marsha Deacon. I know exactly who I am. And at this moment, I have already made my decision as to who I will leave my belongings to in the case of eventuality, in case of the eventual happening. I have made sound decisions. I am making sound decisions right now whilst I still can to ensure that if anything happens to me, I know exactly who my belongings are going to go to. And this is evidence. This is evidence of exactly what I'm saying. So with the whole casting doubt on your mental health thing, it also affects what happens when you die and what happens to your belongings when you die. So this is why this targeting thing is so important. It's so important for you to stay on top of. Because it's, you know, the paranoid schizophrenia label, the crazy label, it's not just a way to make you feel bad about yourself, even though that does contribute to the psychological torture. It's a way to diminish you not only in your life, but in your death as well. So it's important, whilst you are of sound mind, whilst they haven't injured your brain too much, it's important to put stuff in place just in case anything happens to you. And I don't care how young or old you are, get that shit sorted out. Because you know they're going to torture you to the point where either emotionally you're battered, psychologically battered. It's happened to me before. They could push you into suicide. They can push you into being sick, dying from sickness, which is basically murder either way. Or they could cause you to have accidents of all kinds. Remember, this is a slow kill torture program. I don't care how young or old you are. Get your fucking will sorted out. Get your will sorted out. Make sure that you have a plan for when these trafficking, torturing cunts eventually murder you. Have a plan in place. Have a plan in place. Because all this, you know, oh, she's crazy, you know, she's mad, or he's crazy, he's mad, all of that is to rob you of any semblance of agency whilst they are murdering you. That's the point of this. So that's the second part of this video. The first part of this video was talking about the torture. The second part was talking about how to prepare for your eventual death, because everybody's got to die sometime. And the third is me referencing something quite interesting that I found on a TI forum. It came from an energy healer talking about people who practice alternate spirituality, like witches and shamans and energy healers, and talking about how difficult it is to feel like you're being persecuted by Christian TIs. Now, yeah, I know Christian TIs can be extremely rude. I get that they can be extremely rude and extremely presumptuous. I've had that experience. There have been many a time I've had to shut that down. But what we have to remember is, right, is that we have to remember two things. First is that the TIs who usually seem rational, more rational than other TIs, they are usually the ones who are forged in fire, meaning the torture and the pain, it tends to make them sharper. It tends to make them more focused. It tends to make them, you know, go into warlike mode. So they actually thrive not thrive with the torture, that's the wrong word to use, but they actually like, they work around the torture in order to make themselves better. You know, that's the first group of people who are rational TIs. The second group of rational TIs are the ones who are not going through as much as some other TIs are going through. A lot of these TIs who are Christian, they go through some of the sickest, some of the worst shit you can possibly imagine. Some of these people, the shit that some of these people go through is fucking ridiculous. And on top of that, on top of all the physical shit that they've got to go through, that can outweigh or outmatch even stuff that I've been going through. Because remember, I'm one of the people who show the lowest radiation readings in the country. Out of all the TIs in the country, I have among the lowest readings for radiation. So you can only imagine what other TIs in the rest of this country go through. So that's the first thing. That's the second thing. The second thing is that a lot of TIs who seem to be more rational than others are not going through what some of these other TIs are going through. So those are two things we have to take into consideration when it comes to Christian TIs, and why there's so much zealotry to the point of attacking any alternate religions. Those are two reasons why you've got so many religious TIs who will attack anything that they don't believe to be true. You know, if there are Christian TIs, they tend to attack anything to do with, you know, with the craft or with shamanism. They believe it's all demonic. And I'm like, okay, cool. But again, you have to remember that these people, a lot of these people are tortured so much worse than somebody like me. Do you understand what I mean? Or somebody like someone else who appears to be rational. They're going through so much psychologically. And the reason I bring this up is because when you are being tortured, and I'm talking as somebody who studied spirituality but also studied energetic warfare, right? When you are being tortured, when you are continuously sick, what happens is that your body and your auric field, which is your energy, the energy that that emanates from your body, right? What happens is that your energetic field lifts slightly above your body. There's an invisible cord that ties your physical body and your auric field. And what happens when you're tortured is that your energetic body is slightly lifted above your physical one. And the point of that is so that the electrical, the energetic field that's coming from your body, the reason why it slightly separates from your body is so that it can heal your body. It's so that it can aid in the self-healing. The healthier your body is the more electronic output that you have, which is part of the reason why healthy people heal so much better, is because they have a healthy amount of electricity to help them heal when they get sick. So when you are tortured, what happens is the energetic field separates from the body, and the job of the energetic field is to heal your physical body. Now, the reason I'm telling you guys this is because when it comes to religions are built from a combination of death, sacrifice, and emotional investment. And in such religions like Christianity and Judaism and Islam, think about the amount of countries. Think about the generations of families. Think about the tribes. Think about all throughout the centuries. Think about how many people have died for the cause of Christianity or Islam or Judaism. Think about the generations of families behind those religions that have died as Christians, that have died as people who believe in Islam, that have died as people who belong to the Jewish religion. Think about all those people that have sacrificed their lives. That is concentrated astral energy that becomes like, is something called an egregore, a magical chain. That chain consists of the energetic output of all those who have given their lives and who have maintained emotional investment in said religions. That's why when people find themselves being tortured, they either run to the refuge of these major three religions, or they run to a religion that is deep within them, that's ancestral. So whilst the energetic field is trying to heal the body, in order for the energetic field to strengthen itself, we run to these magical chains to give us additional energetic backup, as it were. So we look for backup from these magical chains or from these energetic chains to boost our auric selves or to boost our energetic selves. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's exactly why people who are severely tortured run to religion, because they're running to something that can enable their energetic field to heal their bodies. That's why people who are tortured, either they choose one of two sides. Either they choose the animal side, they choose the human side, they choose the corporeal side, or they choose the spiritual side. People who choose the corporeal side, they tend not to age that well. They tend to be very hard in the face. Okay, they tend not to age that well, because whilst they're running to the corporeal side, they might borrow energy from other places. So they're running on empty all the time. They're running on debt. Whereas people who choose to be religious, who choose to pray, or who choose to, you might notice that even though these people are going through the absolute mill, they don't look as tortured as they should, because they're running to something that ultimately has a lot of energetic power. And that thing is religion. Religion holds a lot of energetic power, for the simple reason that God knows how many people have sacrificed their lives in the name of it across centuries. So this is why a good chunk of TIs are religious. It's a natural thing where their energetic selves are running towards the strongest magical chain, or the strongest energetic chain they can find. That energetic chain is religion. And this is going to be a hard to swallow truth. This is going to be something that's really hard to swallow. It actually does not matter whether Christianity is a lie, whether Islam is a lie, whether Judaism is a lie. It doesn't matter that all these religions that are formed are half-truths fed to the public. It does not matter. Because the emotional investment, the generational emotional investment, the sacrifice, the deaths and killings in the name of those religions are very, very real. And they have the very real consequence of strengthening these magical chains to the point where they could become some of the biggest religions in human history. So it actually doesn't matter if Christianity is a lie. It does not matter if Islam is a lie. It does not matter if Judaism is a lie. It doesn't have to be true in order to have power. And it's like I said in one video that I made on Empress Justice Tarot with regards to spiritual warfare. I don't know if I deleted it or not. I probably did. But one thing about spiritual warfare is that it's the same as physical warfare. It is about numbers. It is about the number of people that believe what you believe, that want to fight for the same cause. It's about resources, and it's about how many people you have on your side. It's not about who's good and who's bad. Get that out of your head right now. But that's exactly why, on a subconscious level, Christianity, TIs seek monotheism. It's for this reason why most targeted individuals seek monotheism, even though it's that same monotheism that's actually responsible for getting them targeted to begin with, quiet as it's kept. But though that's the reason, it's the energetic, it's the desire for energetic support. It's the desire for energetic support, which is why people run to religion. People are not just running to religion because they're emotionally immature. I used to believe that narrative too. They're not just running to religion because they're immature psychologically. I mean, yeah, they are, but there is a specific method to the madness here. The more these people cling to spirituality, the more tortured people cling to spirituality, is the better their bodies, is the better the chance their bodies have of surviving. And like, I'm not being funny, a lot of these TIs are clinging to one of the biggest egregores on the planet. I can only imagine what would have happened to them if they didn't cling to that religion. And this is coming from somebody who is not Christian. This is coming from somebody who is spiritual. And this is coming from somebody who has chosen her own path. I choose my own path because it makes me happy. You know, I'm being tortured, but I'm choosing what makes me happy rather than clinging to the strongest religion I can find or clinging to the most ancestral religion I can find. I'm just doing what makes me happy. But when you're in a position where you're being tortured to fuck, and your auric field is desperately trying to save your life, what are you going to do? You're going to make sure that you strengthen that auric field, or you can choose the desires of your corporeal body and send yourself further into sickness. Those are your two options. That's why so many TIs are Christians or Islam or who follow Islam or who are religious Jews. That's why so many of them are so religious. It's because those egregores, those magical chains that are religions, basically, the biggest ones on the planet are the ones with the most power. And when you run under the shelter of religions with the most power, you give yourself the most protection. And as much as I want to say it's actually helping them, I can't say that concretely, but what I can say is that the primal brain knows what it's doing. That is something that I can say. But of course, Christian TIs are not going to get the message. Islamic TIs are not going to get the message. Jewish TIs, religious Jewish TIs are not going to get the message. They're just going to maintain that their religion is the truth, the light, and the way. That they're always going to maintain that. But the truth of the matter is that the reason why their religion works for them is again because of numbers. But that's the nature of holy warfare. It is not holy. It's based on numbers. If you are violent and powerful enough, you can get people to believe whatever you want in order for them to try to save their own lives. Don't ever doubt it. The main three religions were rooted in violence and are still rooted in violence now. And it's that same violence that's killing TIs. It's that same violence that's killing TIs. Who do you think created the new religions that you will worship? The old gods who demanded sacrifice. Come on now. Come on now. You're talking about centuries and generations and whole countries and all the rest of it. And, again, a lot of these religions came about through terror. That's why I say religion is a lie. That's why I say it's a lie, because it was rooted in half-truths, alchemical truths, basically delivered in code through these fables that people took for absolute gospel. And people have been killed in the name of this so-called gospel. That's why I call it a lie. But again, it doesn't matter whether it's a lie or not. If you've got numbers of people sacrificing themselves for it, then that's what gives it power. That's what gives it power. That's why I always say, I give my life for the truth. I give my life for the truth and nothing more. Nothing more. I give my life for truth and love. And that's it. That's how I keep this shit simple. Oh, shit. I missed Diane. I hope she catches this. Hi, Diane. Hey, sunshine. Just checking in. Diane from St. Louis. Yeah. She's probably gone now, but yeah. You see her, these comments, they don't show up. So yeah, that's why there are so many Christian TIs, you know, who are so adamant about their religion, and, you know, and they attack anything that they see is against their religion. The primal brain knows what it's doing. They're being tortured. The auric field needs a place to latch onto in order to keep itself alive. And when it keeps itself alive, then it boosts its ability to heal your physical body. Like the primal brain knows what it's doing. And I know it sounds confusing, but yeah, that's basically at the root of it all. You know, that's basically at the root of it all. So if you are a TI and you're not Christian, you might be pagan, you might be a witch, you might be a shaman, you might be a heathen. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. People are just trying to survive. And from what it seems like to me, a lot of you TIs that are pagan, or that are energy healers, that are heathens, or that are, you know, that are witches or shamans, it seems to me that you've made your choices. You chose to be happy. You chose to be at peace. You chose to be authentic. You chose to go your own way. I admire you guys for that. But if you're faced with people of monotheistic religions that are attacking your religion in order to hold on to their own, understand that they have centuries of terror and might behind them. Don't take it personally. Just live your life in accordance with your own authenticity. And now that you know exactly why religious people are the way they are, not just religious people, but especially religious TIs, now you know. Focus on being as happy as you can whilst you're still here. That's what the fuck I'm gonna do. So yeah, that was a long one. It was longer than I anticipated, and you know, because there have been electronic weapons fired at my brain, it's just been everything's just been very garbled. But if you've made it to this far in the video, please let me know how you guys are doing. I want to hear how you guys are doing. And yeah, peace and blessings. I love you guys so much. Bye-bye. Sorry that something's in the way.